Yo, what is up, everybody? I'm going to pull this up right now so you guys are seeing at least this, what I'm seeing over here. So I've already got this hearing pulled up. Oh, they switched it to the door. Um, so here's what's going on this morning, and here's why I pulled this up. So they had this is the Bryan Kohberger hearing, and it's a hearing for extradition. Actually, I'll keep myself real big here. Yeah, this is the perfect view. It is 5 a.m. here in Korea. So I woke up in the middle of the night saying, you know what, if they're doing a hearing, we got to cover this. This is a huge case. But I believe the story is that the cameras aren't actually allowed in the courtroom, but they're allowed in like the hallway. So prosecutors are going to come out and maybe give an update, kind of say, hey, here's where we're at with this case. And that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen here today. After the hearing. So essentially there's going to be the hearing. It's going to go down inside of the courtroom, and then the prosecutors are going to come out and give an update. That's my understanding here. So anyways, good to see everybody here in the chat. What's up? Drama in the front, party in the back says, what's the over under on the length of the hearing? It depends, right? So he can contest extradition. So today is an extradition hearing in Pennsylvania. So he can contest extradition from Pennsylvania to Idaho, but most people do not contest that. Most people waive that right, because there really aren't that many grounds in which you can fight extradition. And other than crazy shit that goes on in California, I'll talk about that in a second, extradition is largely a formality. It's largely is, hey, you're going to be sent from one state to another. What grounds would you have to not be sent from one state to another? It's really the obligation of states to send folks to another state, particularly if it's for a crime that both states recognize, like murder. Now, if it was something that one state recognizes but another state doesn't, then we can get into political issues, things like sanctuary laws, right? If you're a sanctuary state for a given issue, then maybe you don't want to extradite somebody to another state for a particular crime. That's something we'll do. Bronco wants the link. Let's go. Oh man, I fucking love Bronco. I don't think he actually wants the link because I have him in my Twitter, and he can always, and actually Bronco can text message me. Bronco has my number. What's up to, I see Scott here in the chat. What the fuck is going on with Scott? He's over there in Turkey. Listen, man, if I need a haircut, you need a new hat. Oh man. So here we have, I think WF Florida. These guys are probably the only folks who have a camera there. So that's why I said, hey, they have a camera there. They're going to get an update. So we're going to cover that whenever they come out and give an update. Andrew, do you sleep, bro? I sleep about 4 or 5 hours a night, but it seems like you never do. So I actually normally do sleep. I normally do sleep like 7-8 hours a night, but tonight, I did not sleep as much because I knew I had to get up for this. So I only got like 6 hours tonight. Where's the Korean women? Right behind me, right here. So we got the new poster in. This is the new one right there for you guys. So that one is the new one for January, the new Soju poster for January. However, the one from December, which if you guys have been following me, I have a contest going on to get the December poster. So if you guys want that, you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. I've got that. Let's see. I actually have that over here. I'll take this down for a second because we're still on the door for a second. So I'll take that down. If you guys want that, come over here to my legalmindset.locals.com. I'll maximize this for a second. And click on this poster, December Soju Girl poster giveaway. Just go over here. Tell me you're interested in the comments. Drop a comment saying, hey, I'm interested. Or vote for somebody else. It's signed by yours truly, and you can have that if you want. So there we go. But yeah, that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. I didn't have time to get this one on Rumble because I woke up in the middle of the night, and it takes me like 30 minutes to get something on Rumble. But I will have the later bits when we go over the cross-examination for Dr. Voss as he gets fucking wrecked in the Casey Anthony trial. So we're going to be watching that a little bit later. It's going to be hilarious. It's probably the biggest destruction of an expert witness ever. We may watch a little bit of the direct, like maybe like 2-3 minutes, just to like so you guys know who the guy is, and then I'm going to jump right to the cross examination because the guy gets the floor cleaned with him, and it's kind of hilarious. It's kind of textbook expert gets fucking grilled. So here we go. I'm going to turn on the audio. This is Bryan Kohberger here. The suspect in the Idaho murder cases. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a guard there. I mean, at this point, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, there's like this dude in the hallway, you know? I mean, he's gonna. He didn't say anything. Yeah, so I don't know what they're saying. So this is these guys. They're explaining everything real quick. Is it muted? No, it's not muted, is it? It's no fucking A. Let me share this again. Boom.
This.
There you go.
The judge will confirm that he is waiving his extradition. There will be a paperwork component. I'm not sure if the paperwork component is going to happen in the courtroom where
5 a.m. motherfuckers
and finally, sign, in essence, his waiver to waive extradition, or if that is going to happen in a separate area. But this is where basically the judge is going to confirm that he is waiving his extradition out of the state of Pennsylvania where he was apprehended, and of course, waive his extradition to the state of Idaho. We will follow along now with the reporters that are inside the courtroom itself. I spoke with Pennsylvania court officials on the phone yesterday to get a little bit more as to what this was going to be like, and they said, "Look, it's not the biggest courtroom, it's not the biggest courthouse. So what it was going to look like was it's a first come first served basis for people, for reporters, members of the media, and members of the public to go in there and sit down. So I'm not entirely sure
there's
who's
a lot
in.
of media there.
Yeah, I would imagine that there was a lot of interest as far as getting a spot.
But as for so no cameras in the courtroom whatsoever, no pool camera, no nothing, and you can only have it in the lobby. Is that what you understand?
Yes, the pool camera itself. So this is the pool camera feed.
Okay.
And the next time this feed is going to be relevant to us is when Kohberger is coming out.
Right.
And when Kohberger comes out, we will know, of course, the hearing is over. And I don't believe, if I remember correctly, I have the rules, basically the Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules in my inbox here. And I don't believe that live tweeting is permitted.
In the courtroom by journalists?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'll read this here.
Do they have to give up their phone?
See, this is weird. Social media rules are
court prohibits the taking of photographs, video, or motion pictures of any judicial proceedings or in the hearing room or courtroom during the judicial proceedings. Here's the part that I find interesting. Additionally, the court prohibits the transmission of communications by telephone, radio, television, or advanced communication technology from the hearing room or the courtroom during the process of or in connection with any judicial proceedings, whether or not the court is actually in session. Which so the court prohibits transmission of communications from telephone or
And
advanced.
if you do it, you could get kicked out of court. Be held
right.
in
So
contempt.
if they are enforcing Pennsylvania Supreme Court policy, there are no phones permitted inside of the courtroom. And
which makes journalists' job even harder. They got to
way
wait
harder.
like everybody else.
Yeah, because then you have to come. Who knows? I have been to courtrooms where they'll take your phone. They'll say, "Look,
Oh, sure,
yeah, well, that happens in
the
federal
judge doesn't
court.
don't mess around." No, it's like
Yeah.
this is the rules of this building. No phones past this point, and so it's kind of radio silence.
Oh, and Bryan Enton from News Nation, he's obviously there. He says going in the courtroom now, cameras and live tweeting is not allowed.
Yeah,
but
there
we'll
you go.
update
There you
here
go.
and on News Nation when it ends. Hearing set to start at 3:30. So yeah, 2 minutes away from what should be the start of this. But yeah, no live tweeting. So we're all gonna just have to wait.
Yep.
Okay,
And
so I'm going to pull
this is a
these
good
guys.
opportunity for us to talk with our audience.
Yep.
So I'm going to mute these guys because they're boring as fuck. So let me just talk over them now. Properly muted. But anyways, so here's what I imagine is going to happen. I imagine he's going to go in there, wave it, come out. But the thing that I think could be interesting here, or potentially interesting here, is like a presentation of evidence. If there's a presentation of the evidence that they have so far, that would be something new. That would be something different. That would be something useful. But we don't know what evidence they're going to present in the courtroom till after, essentially. So they are allowed to have reporters in the courtroom. So those reporters will obviously come out afterwards, report on what they know, like report on, hey, here's the facts that were presented during the extradition hearing. Here's something that may have been brought up. Here's why they have like cause to move him from PA to Idaho. Like if they bring that up at all, that would be something that would be useful. Other than that, should be pretty simple, pretty quick, not too long. Didn't he waive extradition? Even if you waive it, I think you have to go in and actually do that. So that's why they were able to that's why they had to kind of perp walk him in there. He's got to go in and I believe, verbally waive that. So this is one of the first times they've gotten him before a judge, before court, for this case. Scott, since you're awake, I sent you a link. If you want to come on instead of talking shit in the audience. Drama in the front, party in the back said, "Way to unboomer the audio." Yeah. So let me talk one thing about extradition and how it might become controversial. So in California, I believe they've come out and said it. And let me just double check this. But I believe they said they are not going to extradite over trans issues. So they want to become a refuge for trans youth. And they're essentially going to say, we're not going to cooperate with any investigation regarding that. So in case you don't know, this is something that is going to be pretty new here in America in terms of extradition. For example, they don't want to extradite anybody related to transgenderism. So anybody who's coming there from Texas and conservative states, right? So let me just pop this open here. For gender affirming, medically necessary healthcare that respects the gender identity as experienced by the patient, they're going to block out-of-state subpoenas. And they're giving California courts the authority to make an initial child custody determination if the child is in California for the purpose of obtaining gender affirming care. And this has actually right now the law is inspired by Texas Republican Governor Abbott, who treated gender affirming care as child abuse and ordered investigations of families who allow it. Texas judge has temporarily blocked the state from doing so, but the case is on appeal. And we actually just had a case where a child was forcibly sent to California to be chemically castrated under California law. So, I mean, this is going to become an issue when these things come up. Let me welcome here Scott. What's going on, Scott?
Hey, Andrew. You had me at trans youth.
I know. Normally, this is not a controversial topic, and let me pull this over. Actually, let me just get us over here. This is even better. Oh wait, no, hold on. I can get us right here. So I know you're over in Turkey. Like, extradition is normally not a controversial matter, and in this case, I don't imagine it's
You
going
mean
to be
state
one.
state to state, state to
State
state.
to
That's,
state.
yeah.
But you cover domestic issues, and I think that's one thing that, in terms of domestic issues, can cause conflict, right? Your channel, Future Conflict, is about potential conflicts between states, and I think as we go down the line of seeing these, seeing political moves and political laws, we can see potential fights between, let's say, California and Texas, Florida and New York, over extradition of individuals for these specific types of crimes.
Well, in the old days, most states were pretty much, there wasn't a whole lot of daylight, between Texas and California, back in the 80s and the 90s, but the further we get apart from each other, the more this whole idea of state sovereignty and, the rights of a state to exercise its own kind of sovereign issues is becoming apparent, and this is probably going to be one of those issues. I mean, just wait till some of these abortion things come up, especially if any of these states have try to do criminal injunctions against people who travel out of state for abortions and things like that. If you're a resident of, say, Texas, I'm just using that example.
Yeah,
I mean, because I know there are some state legislatures looking at criminalizing people from their state going to other states for abortion. So, I mean, that just shows you I'm not saying that's the right or wrong. I'm just saying that just shows you how far we've come just in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and these are things that never were controversial. Like, for example, impeachment wasn't something you were doing with every single president, but it's seeming like, hey, if the party shift, that's going to be something that happens pretty much under every presidency. Contesting Supreme Court justices wasn't really a thing before. It was just kind of perfunctory. You're nominated. There's no big show. There's no controversy. But now it's every single one for, every single candidate is going to be contested, at least specifically if they're a conservative candidate. They're going to be.
Yeah,
especially
I think we have some opportunities potentially in Arizona for some chicanery to start happening.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kind of issues. It almost reminds me of a time in our country's history when two sets of states had a very diametrically opposed views on the Constitution and the idea of states' rights. Ideally, the main issue there was slavery, but there were a lot of other issues.
Right.
Right,
and that was a big one. I mean, that was one that was okay. Maybe slavery was something, and states' rights and everything was something that might merit failure to extradite. But certainly, now we're talking about gender affirmation. Now we're talking about relative differences in abortion. These are some things that are much different.
I guess they're saying now in Florida they're talking about actually finally enforcing these child sex laws against these people who are doing these sex acts in these whether it's simulated sex or simulated genitalia or simulated breasts or things like that. Start actually holding those people accountable to state laws, and I mean, that's going to get spicy. There's going to be people that are going to have a problem with that. I think that we should always go to the welfare of the children. The adults don't have the right to do things, to these children. And I think that's where you need to start, some of these states need to start drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah. And, I mean, it can go both ways, right? Just like California says, hey, we're not going to extradite these doctors to Texas. Texas needs to say, hey, fuck you. We're not doing that either. Right. I mean, that's sort of the line in the sand, I think, on both sides in order to address these issues. So let me see where they're at right here. I think they're just probably blabbing, but let me just check in on this doorway cam.
Just joining us, JB here with you live on WFLA Now. Josh Benson, Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho murder suspect. He is currently in the courtroom waving his extradition, signing the paperwork necessary. What will then happen after that is he will be escorted here by court personnel, by members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I believe. They're going to be escorting him down the hallway back to his holding area. He will be transported back to the Pennsylvania Correctional Facility, awaiting his official transport. And I believe, of course, then it will be up to Idaho to arrange for transportation to bring him back.
Yes,
to the
that's
state.
correct.
You know, it's interesting storylines too, is just what we see on social media and what everybody talks about in terms of, all right, how was he apprehended? How did they tail the car? You know, they found the car at the parents' house. That's something that came out today. The dad had traveled back to Pennsylvania with Bryan in the vehicle. There's some speculation on if they both, I think there was 2 tickets that they got pulled over twice on the way back. Now we're seeing some speculation that may have not happened from police. So we don't know the true story there just yet. But also seeing things, you know, what kind of inmate was he in the jail? I saw some things on social media saying, hey, you know, he was going crazy and he was threatening people. The Monroe County Correctional Facility warden came forward, I know, to CNN and said that he has been a model prisoner who has not caused any problems during his time in detention. That's according to a source familiar with Kohberger's status at the facility. So this just kind of shows you that there's so much information out there and storylines that are happening so fast. And it's kind of tough to decipher like what really is happening in terms of, you know, what's true, what's false, and what do people want to believe. I think a lot of people out there think this is public enemy number 1 and want to believe.
Hold on, Josh.
Thank you.
I know they're not going to move from that spot.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay, let me mute these guys for a second. But yeah, I mean, this is very interesting. Scott, have you paid attention to this case, like to the Idaho murder case? I mean, the 4 individuals, 3 girls, one guy who were murdered in University of Idaho, and like a student house, kind of, you know, a big student house.
Yeah, I didn't jump in initially on this just because you know, this kind of shit show is the kind of thing that I just don't. But the more I've heard about it, the more I'm kind of scratching my head. There's a lot that sounds really weird about this. There's there are implications of him being a serial killer and you know, his background in criminology or his background or whatever, you know, he was criminal justice or whatever. So it's kind of, you know, it's almost like he was a serial killer and he wanted to be a serial killer, so he became, you know, he went and got that criminal justice background just to kind of as training.
Yeah. And I'm with RL here. I always am about innocent until proven guilty. That's what my whole channel's been about. If I was to take any other stance, I would be a fucking hypocrite. However, we can say, hey, look, the evidence, this is what we say. The evidence is not looking good. The evidence is looking like there's a lot of evidence against this guy. That's fair to say. You can say that before a case. Hey, the evidence is really stacked against this guy. This is going to be a hard one for him to prove, a hard one for him to win. But innocent until proven guilty, he's got to get his day in court. That's his right. That's due process. That's the Constitution, right? And we have to stand by that. If we stood by that for Kyle Rittenhouse, we stood by that for, you know, everybody who's come up there and we think is innocent. We have to stand by that for the guilty. The right is for both the people that are probably going to be convicted and people that are not, right? Due process is for everybody. It's for every American citizen, regardless of how we feel about it.
Yeah, in order to guarantee that guys like Kyle Rittenhouse are going to get a good fair shake, we have to give guys like this a fair shake. Somebody who, on the face of it, seems to be, you know, fairly, you know, up to his neck in whatever it happened.
Right.
And you know, and based on the like I said, I haven't really dug deep into this, but based on my surface reading, there are a lot of suspicious things that he did after the fact that, you know, definitely don't help him.
Here's the problem, though, and you see this probably with because you cover Ukraine, and tell me if this sounds similar to Ukraine. I'm going to paint a picture. So you go on these forums, you go on these Telegram groups, you go on Reddit, right? And you get into the r/ in this case, it's r/Idaho murders, but you know, r/Ukraine, r/whatever else, and you get all of this information and these theories and these ideas. You know, people say this crazy shit. You know, they're like, oh, look, we can put 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 together, and this all this crazy stuff happened. Or hey, just now you heard them saying, oh, he got 2 tickets on the way there, and that probably didn't happen. You hear people saying, oh, he was going crazy and flipping out and, you know, painting with blood and shit on the walls and doing all this sort of crazy stuff. And that's not true, because it's so easy to cause drama online, to spread misinformation, because people are willing to just latch on to anything. They're so hungry for information that they will latch on to crazy fucking theories online. And if you guys have heard anything crazy, like you've been online, you've been watching this, let me know in the chat. If you guys have like a craziest theory you've heard around this, let me know. Yeah, let me unmute this. There he is, getting perp walked again by the, you know, Meal Team 6 over here. Couple Philly cheesesteaks. Couple Philly cheesesteaks too many, if you ask me. But
looks like some good candidates for the ATF and other 3-letter agencies there. They're looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So is he going out of court or into court?
Yeah, that was out. So he went in and now he's out. So he's walked in and out.
So they probably just waived extradition.
They probably waived extradition. There probably wasn't much that happened in that hearing. They'll probably give us that update very shortly here.
I wish there was some kind of a bombshell for you to have gotten up so early for. I mean, if this doesn't pan out, we can always talk about our interest in Soju Girl posters. I mean,
hey, listen, I'm always down for it. I mean, anytime the BMI is under hippopotamus, I'm there. And they just paused it out here. I think they actually hit hard pause on the feed because they stuck in a freeze frame. But yeah, no, I think that this is something that we're going to see more of as a problem, because of the ease of misinformation, because it's so easy to spread misinformation. It's so easy to spread just lies, straight up lies. And I even see people like in the comments being like, oh, like, they'll say something, let's say about me, legal mindset's not really in Korea. He's in Japan. Scott's not really, well, I don't know have you disclosed your location, Scott?
I am in Izmir, Turkey. Yes.
Okay. So like Scott's not in Turkey. He's in a secret CIA base in, outside of.
God, I wish.
Yeah.
The food would be better, I think.
Yeah. So that
I think the CIA compounds that I've been to had pretty good steaks and hamburgers every time I've been there. So.
Let's see. These guys are commenting on something. I'll let them talk.
Of 4 gruesome stabbing deaths at the University of Idaho on inside of a college residence back on November the 13th. Josh, so we have seen Kohberger arrive, depart. This was all done within really a 15-minute time.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of confusion as to what just happened. So let's just go through what this hearing was all about. So extradition is a procedure where one jurisdiction will pretty much acknowledge with another jurisdiction that there's probable cause to bring someone back and arraign them there for prosecution. So that's what we're seeing here. One of the agencies bringing into this court hearing, Kohberger has decided to waive extradition, meaning he wants to get back there to Idaho as soon as possible to try to be exonerated from this crime. And that was set at 3:30. So it's what, quarter to 15 minutes.
Copium in cuffs.
It was supposed to be a brief hearing. It was. Now, he may have gotten the opportunity to speak. Sometimes suspects in this case would be allowed that. We don't know if he was, because we're obviously not in the courtroom at this point. But the public defender, Jason Labar, says he's eager to get back to Idaho to be exonerated, and that's why he's not fighting extradition. So what happens in this case next, if he waives it, which he did, he's expected to be flown back to Moscow, Idaho, and could be there within 72 hours. So we don't know the exact time frame, but that could be the time frame that they're looking at.
So Andrew, I got a
question.
let
me mute this. Yeah, let me get a second. Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I was reading about this is that the defense team has hired, I guess, a fairly robust private investigative staff, and they've gone over a lot of the physical evidence and the site and whatnot. It sounds like they're going to put on a fairly robust defense. I mean, so like it's not like they're just going to, they're going to fight this. I think
they're not going to wheel. No, they're not going to wheel around on this. This could be really, a fascinating trial, because we do not know what evidence they have so far. We don't know what cause they have to keep them under suspicion of committing this crime. We have really no idea what hard evidence is out there. We haven't seen it. People are speculating on it. This is why I think I wanted to tune into this to see what we got today in terms of the extradition. Did they give a little tidbit? Did they give a little snack? Seems like so far we haven't gotten anything. We haven't gotten reports from the reporters on if they offered up anything other than, hey, we have him in Idaho. We have charges placed against them. He needs to go to court in Idaho, because that's really all they have to offer. And particularly if he waived, I don't think there may not be a need for further presentation of the evidence, for further, arguing of any evidence in court. So it sounds like if he's waived it, he's got a strong defense team. He's got a private investigator, which I do know. then I think this should go. This should go and become a robust trial. I don't want to say quickly because this may take over a year to go to trial. And I think that's what people are hoping to hear more sooner on this case. I mean, they would love for this to go to trial this month or next month, but in a trial like this, a murder like this, where there's lots of evidence, there needs to be lots of discovery and information, processing of DNA evidence, I mean, because there was a lot of DNA evidence, i.e. blood everywhere.
I mean, it's going to be a year probably before we really get back into this.
You've got alphabet agencies involved. So,
yeah.
And I'll just put on the little background perp, the perp walk loop here. So you guys see them, perp walking him out. He's a vegan. Everyone points that out. So I don't know why they need that many guards, but.
Well, he's tall and has a good head of hair. So that the female simps are going to come out for him, just like they did with like Ramirez and some of these other. I mean, hell, you've got girls talking about the Dahmer now, and after all this Netflix,
dude, the Dahmer, the I can change him, Dahmer, the I can fix him. They watch the Dahmer case and they're like, I can fix Jeff.
I kept telling my wife, I was like, the only way you can fix a guy like that is with a shotgun in the bottom of a ditch.
Okay, well, in Minecraft, Scott, because we were on YouTube.
Well, he's dead. He's dead. He's dead.
This is true.
Complete.
R.I.P.
I think he was fixed in prison. Actually, oddly enough.
Yes, he was actually fixed in prison. Yes, he totally fixed in prison.
He was rehabilitated.
Yeah. And by the way, this question, I'll answer this question better than these talking heads are on TV. Though this one, do you think Bryan will change his plea once an affidavit is released? Does he know the evidence is against him? Or no, he's not going to plead guilty. I don't think this guy is going to plead guilty under any theory of the case, right? And there's no reason to plead guilty here. I think, when you've got murder charges against you, they're not going to drop them. They're not going to say, oh yeah, we'll let you off with a year in court. No, they've got to hit you for 4 murders. They're not going to step that down, especially with something high press like this. They're not going to let him off with a slap on the wrist. There's no reason for him to change his plea deal. So Chloe's question, it's cute, but it's not a good question. Let's see here. And yeah, I will say Coffee Cup. Thank you, Andrew, for emphasizing we know nearly nothing about him and his actions. Yes, it is all projection. It's all Reddit. And once again, when you know nothing about something, you need to get good information. And I want to be at least giving some objective information on this, because this guy, we know zero about him. The police could have hauled him in because they felt the need to come after somebody and arrest somebody for this crime. We have no idea. The police do that. They do arrest people just because they want to get the heat off themselves that they're doing nothing. Right? That, oh, hey, we've got all this money, we've got this funding, all these resources, and we're doing nothing. They may have just arrested the wrong guy. We don't know that right now. And I haven't seen anything that to me says, oh, yes, there's so much evidence against this guy. Yeah, he made some creepy comments in a bar. If that's true, that was a Reddit post that was also echoed by NBC News. Let's say he did that. How many weirdos make comments in bars, Scott? I mean, especially about girls. It was like he made some weird comments to the female staff at a bar. I mean,
most guys I know are about 3 or 4 beers away from weird comments to females.
Yeah, most people are socially retarded, so I don't really buy that. I don't really buy that too much,
especially younger guys.
Yeah. So that doesn't the fact he's a criminologist. People said, one of the things he did was he interviewed prisoners to get their view on why they committed crimes. I don't see that. I don't see that as a problem for a criminology student. Literally, they're just going to play this on loop like 100 times, but I'll keep it in the background for y'all. That's not a problem. That's not a crime. It is not a crime to interview people who are criminals on why they committed the crime as a criminology student. People might say, oh, it's weird. Well, in the context of the class, not really. Maybe for you.
Babo Yogi in the chat, Dahmer wasn't a killer. He was just iron deficient.
Oh, no. Babo Yogi. Oh, fuck. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, let me get some of your questions from the chat here, and let me actually check in on the locals live chat here. What these degens are saying. They were updating me on locals about the situation in Texas. Apparently, there was a potential extradition case there, and I believe the reading of the court there. I'm reading this from Patrick, who's one of your guys as well. Scott says the court majority dismissed Younger's petition, insisting it couldn't rule on a hypothetical situation, and that the current custody order is sufficient. So there was a potential for a kid to be sent back to California, and when he goes to California, he will be, kind of extradition proof when the kid is in California, and he would get that gender affirming care because that's what the mother said she's going to do. So there's a situation there.
Now, which one are you talking about? I'm not tracking this. The gender affirming thing is that somebody in California who's being extradited to Texas?
And guys, sorry if I'm butchering this this case here. I'm going to try to pull up the actual facts here. Let me see.
You got to get me up to speed on that one.
Yeah. So let me just pull this one up real quick. Okay, here we go. So it's this guy, Jeff Younger. And let me just make sure I get this here. So he had a custody battle over 7-year-old twins with his estranged wife, a pediatrician. The dispute focused on the social gender transition of one twin who was assigned male at birth, meaning it's a fucking guy. I'm sorry. I don't like that the news media takes, like the news media, by their use of language, is taking a position on this. But anyways, it was a dude born a guy, XY chromosome, but lived as a girl at the mother's house. So the mother is allowing this behavior, or forcing this behavior one way or another. See, I don't know the inside. I'm not seeing inside the house. I'm going to say condoning this lunacy. While the mother argued in court that their child drove the transition, wearing dresses and choosing a girl's name, Younger contended the child was happy to be a boy, and his wife was pushing the child to transition against their will. So that's the issue here, is that the mom is in California, right?
No bias in this article at all. This was a rallying cry for the hard right.
A story that resonates with the right, alt-right. I mean, all of these things that you're getting here. That apparently they say divorce records are sealed. Both parents are under a gag order. Look, and they're going against the dad, right? Saying he's defying that. Well, if he's filing with the court, that's not defying a gag order. I don't want to read too much of this propaganda, but and it's funny because that's a Texas periodical. That's a Texas newspaper. It shows you that, people say, "Oh, Texas is so right." I don't think they understand like the infiltration of the apparatus, even the states like Texas and Florida. It's real. You get places, blue dots, like Austin, and even in Florida, if you look at Orlando, Tampa, if you look at Jacksonville, Tallahassee, everywhere but Miami, it's pretty much a solid blue dot. Like Miami is the one holdout for major urban areas, but that's about it.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen a pattern in a lot of these men trying to establish their parental rights as fathers, and then all of a sudden there's a clamp down by the court, so he can't, plead his case publicly, and then you get leaks from the other side that paint him in a negative manner, and he's unable to publicly defend himself.
Well, and when you get, and this is smart, Bria, it says, I have a feeling she moved to California for this reason. She's a doctor and knew the law was going to take place. And that's the thing, when they know that a state is going to allow something and you just move there, right? And if you're a smart person and you have money, which she does, and she knows that, hey, California is going to have my back on this. I mean, I can see that happening. I can see it becoming the test case. And, people say you cry wolf, but when you get your genitals mutilated in a separate state, you can't go back from that. You can't claw that back. There's no getting back what you've permanently mutilated.
Well, I mean, you see all these testimonials by these people who have transitioned, and then they call it the worst thing they ever did. They're sterile, or they have permanent changes to their voice and or other parts of their body that they can't walk away from. There's a lot of regret there. And there is this whole idea of gaslighting, right? If a parent sits there and tells their kid something every day, there's a good chance the kid's going to freaking buy it because the parent is the authority figure in that situation.
Oh yeah. And 200 Watts Studio said prayers for Hogue Law, speedy recovery. Yeah, I hear that Rich Hogue is still on a ventilator in the hospital. I do send my best wishes to him for anything, and I echo Nick's sentiment. I haven't talked about this. I talked about this actually immediately when it happened. And I said, without unequivocally, despite what people may think, I wish nobody ill. I wish the best for him and his family. I hope that he recovers. I sincerely do. And, I wish him all the best. I've said my private messages over in that regard. But hopefully he recovers quickly. Rich Hogue recovers quickly from his stroke. So I just want to be very unequivocal about that. I don't care what my view is on people's takes, and they can have a bad take. I never wish them ill, right? Just no matter how bad their takes are.
I think that's the difference between us, and people like us and people that you see on the far left is that if you have a disagreement, then you are no longer a person, right?
Well, not only that, but I mean, we saw during COVID that when there were folks that were dying, just dying during COVID, and they would try to claim because they were unjabbed that they were dying because they were unjabbed, and they were cheering their deaths. And I'm like, that is fucked up. That is demented. That is wrong. And it's hypocritical. I would never do that for anybody, any human being. I believe in all human life being important. I believe in the ability of people, if they've done something wrong, to even change if they can. And I just think that they deserve the opportunity at life, regardless. Like that's my personal view, and I believe that for everybody. I don't believe in canceling people, and I don't believe in wishing ill on people, but that's the demented view of the left. And certainly even for people like Bryan Kohberger here, there's already people that are like wishing him, ill, that are sending horrible remarks to his family. That's hypocritical, guys. If you're one of those people who's out there says, oh, I'm based, I'm this and that. I believe in the Constitution. These motherfucking liberals, they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about rights. They don't care about the law. But then you take the position that this person is already guilty, or any other person who's charged with a crime that you don't like, that looks weird, that you have a suspicion on, and you wish him ill, you wish him harm. You need to check yourself. You really do. Before you go.
I'd like to call out this, in the chat, not interested. It might be an unpopular opinion, but if these victims had proper training, they could possibly have been better defended themselves. So one of the things that we really talk about a lot on our channel is I just
want to bring up the counterpoint, because this is like point and counterpoint.
Right. I don't care if it. Well, so but the question is would they have been in the situation they were in? I don't know exactly, why they were where they were at. Was it all like, were they crashing there type of thing?
It was okay. I can explain those facts because I have been following this and kind of following this all the way through. So they were in a student house. It was 3 levels. There was a first floor with 2 people on that floor, second floor with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and the third floor was very similar layout. There were 2 people killed on the second floor and 2 people killed on the third floor, 2 girls, and then a girl and her boyfriend on the second floor. So third floor was 2 girls. Second floor was a girl and her boyfriend. It was on a hill. So it's one of those weird things where you can kind of park at like a higher level and then go down or up. So
did they not have like locks on their doors? I mean,
they did. And in fact, the scary thing is that the dad went over and actually worked on the locks the week before. But apparently, I believe they left the door open, and they left the door unlocked. That's
what you could point to then, right? I mean, there's always things that you can do to enhance your security. Joe, of course, our mutual friend, Joe Dolio, is always kind of talking about, the things that you can be more prepared in any situation. When you're sleeping and you don't have somebody to guard you, then you have to secure yourself, and especially these young kids. This is one of the things that we can arm our children with, before we send them off into the world, is to realize that, there are people out there that want to do harm to them. And while it's not likely that this kind of thing is ever going to happen to you, it can happen. I mean, I know you and I have probably been in situations where we're like, holy cow, there for the grace of God go I. We could have ended up.
Oh yeah, I have been.
I don't know how many times I crashed at I have friends or even a stranger's house, right? Like in college or whatever. So.
Yeah, no, I've had situations where I've been close to being just completely removed from this earth, and I am like thankful for having survived those situations.
Right,
I'm not lying, and not just because I drank too much in ETH One with you and Legal Vices. Not just that,
not just because you fell asleep on the train and who knew where the train was going to go, or
no, not that.
American lawyer found dead with his splashed on the soul.
And I think this is what Mike was saying: is training is more important than fighting. It's a mindset. Yes. As I say, like have a legal mindset, which I think, by the way, goes beyond just knowing the law. It's understanding the application of business. It's understanding how things work, how to keep yourself out of trouble, how to avoid things. If you know how things work, how the system works, you are able to stay ahead of trouble, which is much better than ending up in court and in trouble in the first place. And that is about how you think. And if you have that mindset of being prepared, right, like Joe talks about, then you think, okay, I need to make sure my locks are all right. It's not about waiting until the killer has a knife to your throat and then trying to fight him off because you've trained knife fighting techniques, right? And like knife defense, right? You've let it get too far. I mean, that's the same thing as going to court and having to fight the charge. Well, how about you don't get to court in the first place? Because as I always say with my practice, and I do, a lot of real estate now and corporate, if my client was to end up in court, I fucked up because they should never be there in the first place. They're now wasting money that they didn't have to waste otherwise. They're in a position they shouldn't be in otherwise. I love this. 200 Watt Studio. American lawyer with a lazy eye found slain in Korean bathhouse. Oh, great. Guys say I don't read every super chat. I read every fucking super chat, guys. Yeah.
200 Watt Studio is on fire tonight, man.
200 Watt Studios is killing it. I'm not gonna lie. So these guys are still in the bunker here, with not much, still answering tweets, by the way, and looping the perp walk, which I think is the most we're going to get today. But the things we could get, let me give you on this one, the things we could get very soon, like I'm thinking in the next week, if he's extradited, we could have a hearing in Idaho within a couple days, within 48 hours. So we should be able to get more information on this. Obviously, to the extent that one is televised, I'll cover that. Or if there's follow-up, I'll cover that one because I know people are engaged on this one and paying attention to this one. They want the information. They want the updates on this.
Another hot topic that's happening as we speak are these votes in the House for the Speaker of the House, man. That's I've been just kind of following that throughout the night. That's kind of interesting to see where that's going.
So where do you see that going from somebody who's followed that? Because obviously I've been sleeping over here in Seoul. How do you feel about that one?
Well, basically Jeffers is getting more votes than Jesus, I just lost his name. You know how that goes. What's the guy's name? He's it just exited my. It just exited my mind. Let's see. I'm waiting for it to pop up. McCarthy. Thank you. Yes. So Jeffers has gotten more votes than McCarthy, and you're seeing basically 7 Republican votes go for Jim Jordan. And so what would be interesting?
Apparently McCarthy has lost the second House vote as of 3:31 p.m. So
yeah, I saw a live stream. I was looking at it before yours. That was the actual they were doing the live, like the C-SPAN view or whatever. and they were doing a vote. So I think that was going to be the third vote, but I'm not sure if they're doing that. Anyway, point is that I was thinking that, you know, what would be ironic is if in 19 votes, which okay, yeah, they were at 7 when I saw on the count, but the ironic thing would be is if Democrats were to break rank and make their own deal to get McCarthy in and join with the kind of uniparty Republicans, you know, which would
we'll
be
see that's when the mask is off, right? That's when the mask is off. Like and that's what we may have to see, and that would be very telling. Now that would be bad news because now you've kind of like let the cat out of the bag, right? That these guys have been working together all along, and they have been in terms of legislation. This would just be taking the mask off, saying, no, we are going to get involved in your eternal party politics, right? And we are going to push for this particular candidate. That would be hilarious. And, you know,
well,
just because it would expose it. It would expose it immediately.
Yeah, right. I think what would be good about that if it happened, not that it would be good, but is that it would expose just the lie of where all these you know, centrist Republicans are, because they care more, I think, about putting money in their pocket than they do about, you know, any of these things that are supposedly GOP principles and things like that. So they give zero fucks about GOP. They give zero fucks about GOP principles. I'll tell you that right now. You know, most people don't follow these principles. And here's the news item right here. GOP is scrambling after they failed to elect a speaker in 2 House votes. 19 Republicans voting against their party bid. So this could go. I mean, I don't know what the timing is, but I guess this could go even maybe potentially past tonight if they keep this up. So I don't know what time they call closing hours in the Senate. Well, they need to stay up until they get it done, man. I mean, you know, these people. It's not like these people have a hard job, and you know, they get off way more days than guys like me and you get off.
But they get paid to do jack shit and to sit there, and people continue to vote for them. And frankly, that's the one thing I get frustrated with is why do people continue to vote for these folks? It's not that they just get paid to do nothing, but look at how much money they're making off of the information. I mean, look at these stock trades that, you know, so many members of the Senate and the House are doing. It's unbelievable. Yeah, so people say they have to keep going until someone gets a majority. Well, hopefully that pushes them, you know, when they get later in the night to get their shit together, or just take the mask off and do it one way. More GOP will go to Jeffers, I bet. Well, we'll see. Too many Republicans don't. This is a good one. Too many Republicans don't have secret videos of them. Oh God. Oh shit. Yeah, and I think Fallout Zone, this sentiment you bring up, nothing will change no matter who got in during 2022. I mean, that sentiment is, I think pretty prevalent right now. You know, it's like regardless of the vote today, I don't think it swings things wildly one way or another.
Well, you know, there are a lot of people who are, you know, well, like, you know, Margaret Taylor Greene is a great example of somebody who's not perfect, but she's calling out a lot of the right things, you know, whether it's, and this is not in a partisan way, it's in a governance way. Like, so the idea of, you know, voting present or voting by proxy, you know, not even caring about the votes that occur on the floor, you know?
Okay. And hold on. Can I get you right here? So these guys I want to get this tweet right here. In fact, I'm going to even pause this shit. So this is this girl's tweet, and I want to comment on this because this is something that actually pisses me off. So this chick, this is what people are writing in on this. In fact, I'm going to do better commentary on their tweets than they will. I'll let it play here now. But do you think Kohberger is guilty based on body language and overall attitude with a picture wearing a mask? Okay, first of all, why the fuck are you wearing a mask in America? And why are you like even standing that in 2023? Well, body language, Al said it. My body language. First of all, I'm going to say this real quick. Half the people that say they're body language experts don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's complete bullshit, right? It's complete zodiac, make up whatever the fuck they want to make up about somebody.
Well, I was going to say, I mean,
them a certain thing.
The fact that girls focus on that stuff, like they do, like astrology and all that crazy shit. I mean, you know, I don't understand what it is with girls and astrology, you know, but
if you haven't figured
weird,
you haven't,
it has nothing to do with reality.
I'll give you a one-on-one next time I see you, Scott. But that is necessary information for dating in 2023 is to know all about astrology. But in terms of someone's guilt, their actual culpability, see, if it's astrology and you're on a date, at least you can be like, yo, either play with it and have fun with it, which is what I do, or maybe in the Scott realm. I know you're married, but let's pretend you weren't. Yeah. You know, you might be saying, hey, this girl's talking about astrology, I'm out. Right. And you turn around and you leave. But in this case, this man's life is on the line, and you're trying to decide his guilt over fucking
based on body language. Yeah.
Like, guys, when you look at an action, for example, looking down, that can mean a lot of things. And any body language expert that tries to tell you, oh, he looked down, therefore he's guilty and he did the crime, they are full of shit. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Well, it's all analysis, right?
Into it. You can read anything into that.
It's all analysis, and your analysis is only as good as your track record and your ability to articulate specific facts and link them to what you think is a possible potential outcome. You know, I mean, in the world of the military, you know, the intelligence people get it wrong almost as more, if not way more than they get it right. But that's not to say there aren't some damn good people out there that know how to read the tea leaves, you know, because that is a thing. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, you see these people, oh, I have a built-in lie detector. Okay. Well, but there are those people out there that do have the ability to just kind of.
Well, I like this comment here from Ray, which says body language is like a lie detector. You can't detect lies, only a possible stress point. Yeah, sure. Right. And I'm willing to believe, like, at this point, this person was stressed about something, but I don't believe that person, you can say in that moment, based on, you know, him making a particular emotion, are they lying about something or not? Also, I love this. Megan made me laugh. His Juniper was in Gatorade or whatever. Must be a murder.
Well, look at Coffee Cup. Coffee Cup in the chat.
God. Let's see here. Coffee Cup. Astrology. Okay, that might be a good test. Read jury selection. He's an Aquarius. Would that affect your decision? Anyone who takes the question seriously is dismissed. Yes. Yes. Here's a Scorpio. It's a total Scorpio move, right?
Well, but the funny thing is that even base chicks fall into the trap. I mean, I was watching.
Base chicks are still chicks, and the fact that these conservative simps fall for that shit, and they just pretend that their conservative trad waifu isn't still a girl is hilarious.
Well, I just remember on Chrissy Mayer's show one day, you know, the Simpcast or whatever. I was unfortunate enough to be catching that, and I think it was Brittany Venti or one of those gals brought up astrology, and then all of a sudden Anna and Brittany and Nina Infinity, and they're all talking about it. I'm just like, what the hell just happened? You know, I mean, because these are all girls that I appreciate a lot of their takes on things, you know, but that doesn't mean they can't have bad takes. So.
Base chicks are still chicks, and once again, but here's the thing: I don't have a problem with girls liking astrology. It's that's like girls liking you know, dolls and makeup and everything. Like, they're allowed to do that. That's part of them being a woman. In fact, that's kind of cute. I find it kind of endearing. It's like, oh, they're talking about astrology. That's such a cute girl thing, you know? Like, it's, to me, I have no problem with it. They can like whatever they want to like. That's fine, you know, but we like, you know, I don't know, guns and fucking, you know, monster trucks and fucking, you know, whatever the hell else we want to deal with, right?
Cars,
you know, shit exploding, you know. That they may not necessarily like. That's fine. Gender differences are fine. I'm cool with that, right? That's not a problem with me.
Speaking of things that guys like, RIP to Ken Block, man. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Tell me more about that, because I heard vaguely about that. But
so Ken Block, I guess on the 2nd was out doing snowmobiling, and he was going up a steep hill, and evidently it rolled back on him and fell on him, and he was dead at the scene. And so it's just, you know, just such a shame. I wasn't a big fan of his, man. He was he was an innovator, man. And I love it. I loved his taste in cars. He had all my dream cars. in his garage. So it was
Yeah.
it's just tough, man. And he's here lately. He's been bringing his daughter into it, so I identified real strongly with that. I've got 2 daughters,
Yeah.
and so the fact that now his family's without him, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Let me get this super here from Brett, who says, people that think they can read body language without knowing the person or studying them is dumb. We can read friends and family after we've been around them for years, but a total stranger, not so much. Yes, because you've established an individualized baseline with that person. You've established a baseline because you know what their normal behavior is. If you know that your boyfriend or girlfriend always wakes up and gets coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden, after they do that for years, they're getting tea, you're like, why'd they just get tea? Right? Like, that does cause you to cause a question. Now, what can you conclude from that? Now, if you're a girl, you're like, my boyfriend just had tea. He's clearly cheating on me. Like that's, I know where your girls out there, ladies, I know that's where your mind goes. If it's a guy, I'd probably be like, oh, she must have seen some dumb shit on Instagram. There must be something trending right now or something like that. That's probably what I would think. But it's true. I absolutely agree with that. I can tell when like my brother or my mom or, somebody who's very close to me is acting weird, like a long-term friend, but I have no fucking clue about strangers. And I really can't tell the way they're acting. There are certain things that I say, hey, look, that's suspect. Hey, look, and there's certain body language that is very, very clear. For example, if I was turned around, then obviously I'm not paying attention to Scott, right? I'm not looking at Scott. That's an obvious thing, right? Like clearly I cannot look at Scott if I'm also staring at the Soju Girl poster, right? I can only look at one thing. So, for
I've
example,
been staring at the Soju Girl poster all night. So,
well, I know.
I wish you would move your head over to the.
Well, if you want to stare at it,
your
more,
left, my right, a little more,
and you want to stare at the one that I am giving away as part of the giveaway, which I've signed. Nice. I have signed. You can go to my locals, legalmindset.locals.com, and enter into the contest. I'm going to ship it from South Korea to wherever you are. It's going to cost me far more than the locals membership that you've signed up for. But I think it's a fun idea, and I want to give back to you guys.
No, I think it's great. I think it's very good that you're doing that, man. That's a good value added to the fans.
Let me give one here. This is from 200 Watt Studios, fucking killing it today. Warmonger eye patch having a fit that McCarthy didn't get speaker, calling fellow Republicans enemies. Of course, and he's talking about obviously Dan Crenshaw, Captain Eye Patch here, and of course, he's going to be mad about it. He is a warmonger, and he's absolutely a simp for the Ukrainian cause, which was funding money to Democrats. So think about it. At this point where we've pretty much confirmed that FTX was funneling money, Ukrainian funds back to Democrats, and they refunded it after that. So they are literally refunding something. Now, even if it doesn't go through FTX, right? Why should we not be invested? Why should we not be investigating how our funds have been used so far? How about we do that before we give them more money?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we giving people more money when we literally have an issue with the money they've used so far? And like you said, we've given them, and I think we talked about this on their show, we've given Ukraine more than the military budget of most developed countries.
Yeah. So
more than the GDP.
100 billion.
Of Hungary.
And more. So 70 billion. It was, I think, is the defense budget for Germany, and we've given them over 100. And with this new pledge that came in at the end of the year, I think we're up to like 120, 130 billion. So now, not all of that goes directly to military aid. Some of that is welfare type stuff for the refugees, but still, it's a huge chunk of change.
And I do think we're going to get an announcement here in a second. Let me see what these guys have to say here.
Just got in the feed moments ago from Pennsylvania State Police. They are going to be speaking. They have called a press conference here today. The exact reason for their press conference, I believe, I guess we'll find out here momentarily, but the exact reason why they are calling a press conference wasn't made, exactly clear. They just want to discuss details, questions that they have been being asked about the apprehension of Bryan Kohberger, wanted, of course, and the suspect in the University of Idaho stabbing deaths. So this is the feed here in the center of your screen. We're about 5 to 10 minutes away, Josh.
Yep. Yeah, and we just heard the actually watched obviously the video of Kohberger coming in and out of the hearing, the extradition hearing.
Yeah, they don't
A lot
have
of people
that.
ask
They're
them what
boomering the
happened
audio
inside of
right now
that,
here too.
Hearing, and I'm starting to see some of the notes from some of the reporters. Bradley Warren's a reporter out there who was in the courtroom. He said, he kept looking at his mom and his sisters. At some point, he mouthed out something to them that was unclear, but he said that he made the decision voluntary, nothing more than yes, and I understand. We also found out that Ann Taylor will be the public attorney in Idaho when he is extradited back to the state of Idaho. So we're getting a few details of what happened during that hearing, as well as what's going to happen once he's extradited in terms of his defense.
So just confirming, so a public defender in Idaho.
Ann Taylor is her name, right?
Right. So, so a public defender.
That's a free attorney
representing him in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And then, of course, a public defender representing him in Moscow, Idaho.
Another free attorney.
As we see here, look at the size of the group of media that have assembled here in the room. Really not all that surprised considering the magnitude of the case, but as soon as this press conference gets underway, we will, of course, turn up the audio. We will listen.
You know what we should do? You've got a good number of folks in the chat. You should start having them tag these guys. Tag these guys' Twitter handle and start and see if we can't get a legal mindset question on the
bring them in, just like
trend
it in, right? Like yo Jeff, why you gotta
how many monitors do you need, bro?
Sorry,
JB. Yeah. How many monitors do you need, bro?
How many monitors? How many monitors you got, bro? Josh, Salmon called. They want their shirt back. I mean, I don't know,
guys. Who made a raid on the freaking hair gel this morning? Not Andrew for sure.
Well, look, I was gonna say I cannot. That's like calling the fucking kettle black. I'm going to Hongdae to my favorite.
Well, it takes one to know one,
I'm going to the Hongdae to my favorite barber to get a haircut today, although it's going to have to be after probably my show today because I'm doing the expert witness testimony. I've been re-reviewing, we've kind of been reopening the case. Case. There is a expert witness who got fucking wrecked. Oh, it's been great to review later because it's giving light on the sexual assault, the essay allegations that Casey has placed against George Anthony and Lee Anthony that are going to potentially lead to a defamation case. Ben Chu of the Amber Heard fame said he would take the case. He reviewed the facts, said there's a good claim for defamation here. So I think this is a potential case going forward. And I think it could have Casey Anthony back in court. And I'm just getting getting way ahead of the story because I think it's something that should be brought into court. So far, based on what we said, none of these facts were presented at trial. And so to say that the dad and the brother were essentially gang raping Casey and Kaylee is a heinous accusation. It's a disgusting accusation. And it's a type of accusation we cannot allow in a civilized society. We cannot allow other people to destroy their reputation by just calling them horrible, vile criminals, essentially, and just going on and walking off like it's a good time. And who needs to pay is not just Casey, but the publishers and the producers who put out this vile accusation without substantial evidence, right? More than just Me Too, more than just she said it and we #believe all women. And by the way, that's not just enabled by women; it's enabled by their simps who are putting this out there, right? So there are men who are backing this up as well. It's not a female problem. In fact, I'd say even more, it's the men that believe it and they stand for these women. 200 Watt Studio says, doesn't have that obnoxious as switching from coffee to tea. If she sees you use 5 scoops of coffee and one day use 6, she thinks you're cheating. It's true though, ladies in the chat, and I know you ladies out here. I see you in the 6
chat. Cup of coffee. 6. Yeah, he must be cheating. He's looking the other way outside the bed. I wonder if Captain America's shield could have stopped.
yeah, exactly. Like, I wonder.
It's like the meme,
Yeah,
I wonder if Thanos could.
I was going to say whose vagina is stronger, Captain Marvel or She-Hulk, right?
Or Wonder Woman's.
Yeah, seriously. Wait, make a poll whether he's cheating or not. Okay. I got you. Got you right now. You know, so
Make sure you're carrying our M4 into the press briefing here. I'm not quite sure if that's the correct loadout for a public statement.
yeah.
Not that I know anything about the public affairs or anything like that.
No, nothing at all. You know absolutely nothing at all. Making the question now, you know, whose kitty is stronger, Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, or he's cheating?
Shout out to Cannon in the Cannon Hotep in the chat.
What's up? Cannon Hotep says, believe all women and they them who? But see, Cannon, that's the hilarious thing. It defeats that narrative, right? Like for them to say believe all women, women have to exist. Right,
Linda Carter's vagina saved lives.
Oh god, it's so hilarious. I'm probably gonna go to the dog pound over this one. But yeah, let's see what we got here. Little Binger says, of course he's cheating. He took an extra 10 minutes to get home from work, and he claims traffic. Bro, this is too real. Some people are giving too real examples. I know they've experienced this because these are too real. You know.
She-Hulk clearly does Kegels.
it's hey, listen, that is true. That is true.
Hey, did you ever do a legal analysis of the She-Hulk?
I wanted to.
Show?
I did not do that because I think is it gonna get canceled? I heard it's not looking good for She-Hulk.
I think yes. I think signs say that it's likely. But that being said, I never watched it, so you know.
Yeah, I didn't do the thing.
I got my takes from Flashcast on that one.
Yes, I did not do the thing because I didn't want to give money to those fuckers. As I said, I'm happy to watch it when it comes out on an airplane, and I can watch it that way.
Love it.
All right,
let's listen in.
Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Adam Reed. I'm the Director of the Communications Office with the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you for joining us here.
That volume issue was on their end.
The order of speakers is going to be our Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner, Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Major Christopher Paris, he's our Area 3 Commander, and First Assistant District Attorney, Monroe County, Mike Mancuso. After the speakers have finished, we will then take a handful of questions.
Okay, we'll get some questions.
Colonel Ivanchik.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police.
This quality is on their
While I'm
end.
The investigation into the horrific murders of the University of Idaho students. I did not imagine the investigation would lead to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My heart goes out to the families of the
Rich
victims,
G's comment.
their friends,
Mhm.
the community of Moscow, and the University of Idaho.
Oh god.
No words can heal the pain associated with the loss of a child. Their young lives were ended far too soon. In law enforcement, we understand the best thing we can do for victims and their families is to follow every lead, collect every piece of evidence, and bring those responsible to justice. I am proud of the members of the Pennsylvania State Police who were able to help in this investigation. The cooperative relationship between our local, state, and federal partners stands the test of time. The officers, troopers, and federal agents work together tirelessly, putting in long, difficult hours. Communication and cooperation are imperative to success and to ensure the integrity of the case remains maintained. The culmination of that cooperation ultimately led to take the suspect into custody and afforded the families some sense of peace they deserve. I want to thank the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police, and our partners in the Federal Bureau of Investigation for their support, assistance, and coordination. I also want to recognize the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. And finally, I need to acknowledge the members of the Pennsylvania State Police, specifically members of Troop N our Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and our Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, who assisted in safely taking the suspect into custody in the early morning hours of December 30th. As previously indicated by Chief James Fry of the Moscow Police Department, specific details regarding this investigation cannot be released until the suspect is extradited to Idaho and presented with the probable cause affidavit.
Yep.
At this time, I will turn the microphone over to Major Christopher Paris, commander of Area 3, who was involved in the coordinated efforts to take the suspect into custody.
Thank you, Colonel. Area 3 comprises troops F, P, N, and R, and is made up of 1,000 approximately of the women and men, civilian and enlisted, in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania. I'd like to introduce to my left Captain Norm Kramer, who's the commander of Troop N Hazleton, which is comprised of Carbon, Monroe, Columbia, and parts of Luzerne counties. I would like to reiterate, as the colonel said, that Idaho law prohibits
Is
any
his
release of information contained within
is
the
his
affidavit.
flat top so thin you can see his head through
We're
it?
going to do our best today to
Yeah.
talk about what phase we are currently in the investigation. And
Really
it has
annoying.
entered a new phase with the waiver for extradition. And the continuing primary goal is the seeking of justice through successful prosecution and conviction, bearing the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So with that in mind, we're
That's
trying to
important
balance
to
essentially
remember.
two things: the
Mhm.
public's desire for information against the need to maintain the integrity of the investigation and protect the suspects, accused at this point's due process. So I'll now attempt to give you an operational picture with the best information I can release at the time. So this begins when the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation troopers were contacted by the FBI about assisting with surveillance of the accused in this case. I'd like to take the opportunity to specifically thank several individuals.
So the feds were on it.
Special Agent in Charge Jackie McGuire and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Dave Carter from the Philadelphia Field Division, as well as Supervisory Special Agent Bill Vigorito of the Scranton RA. We're very lucky in PSP to have a collaborative relationship with the Bureau, both in Pennsylvania and beyond, and their people are absolutely excellent. So as the investigation progressed, Troop N Criminal Investigation Section, commanded by Captain Kramer over my left shoulder here, began to collaborate with authorities in Idaho. Specifically, I'd like to acknowledge Lieutenant James Curto, who was here today, Sergeant Anthony Ferdinand, Corporal John Chulak, who is not present with us, and Troopers Leary and Knoll, who are here with us today. It was through this collaboration and the charges pending in Idaho that those troopers were able to obtain search warrants and a fugitive justice warrant that was prepared here in Monroe County for the location in Chestnut Hill Township and the fugitive from justice warrant for Mr. Kohberger, respectively. I'd like to acknowledge the Monroe County District Attorney, David Christine, as well as First Assistant Mike Mancuso and their entire office. The support that we received was absolutely excellent. Once those warrants were obtained, the Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, BESO, coordinates our Special Emergency Response Team, CERT. They were selected to serve those warrants, the 3 search warrants and the fugitive from justice warrant. To define what CERT is, it's a full-time tactical team maintained by PSP to deal with high-risk warrant situations, barricades, and other incidents requiring specialized tactical training or other capabilities. From their perspective, we essentially task them to go out and serve a arrest warrant for someone accused of a quadruple murder. They're activated several hundred times a year throughout the Commonwealth. We don't typically hear of their work in a forum like this because they serve the warrant, the person's taken into custody, and they go about their assignment. They are the ultimate professionals. It's a volunteer team. They're highly trained and highly motivated. Captain Norm Kramer over my left shoulder was assigned as the top comm for the CERT activation, which means he was responsible for coordinating our tactical preparations. So tactical assets were then staged in the county, in Monroe County, into the evening of Thursday, December 29th, last Thursday. And in the early hours of Friday, December 30th, those warrants were executed at the location. Mr. Kohberger was taken into custody without incident. The scene was turned over to the FBI Evidence Response Team for processing. Mr. Kohberger was then turned over to the Monroe County Prison, where he has remained in their custody since. I'd like to thank the Monroe County Sheriff and the Stroud Regional Police Department for their support as well during the extradition process. Arrangements currently are being made to deliver Kohberger back to Idaho, where he can have continued due process and face these charges. So it's with that, I will turn it over to First Assistant Mike Mancuso.
Thank you, Major. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Mancuso with the DA's office, the First Assistant District Attorney. I want to give my condolences to the families of the victims out in Idaho for their loss. It's my sincere hope that this marks a clear step in the right direction of effectuating justice for those folks. My office's role was relatively recent. We weren't advised of the presence of the defendant in our county until only a couple days before the apprehension of the defendant. But when we were told, we came together and worked very closely with Captain Kramer, who did an excellent job in almost like a clockwork operation. Part of my duties were to ensure that 3 separate search warrants were issued. Those affidavits attached to those search warrants are still under seal, so I can't discuss their contents with you. But one was for the person of Mr. Kohberger, collecting DNA and photographs, that sort of thing. One was for the white Elantra vehicle.
The Hyundai Elantra,
which
that was a
I
factor.
understand
Okay.
has been seized and is being processed. And one was for the address, the residence itself that he was living in.
Probably you're going to start have a spate of your Korean friends apologizing to you for the driver driving a Korean vehicle.
Major Harris and Captain Norm Kramer did an outstanding job in coordinating the efforts, not only of the numerous Pennsylvania State police troopers there, but officers from other jurisdictions and disciplines within those jurisdictions to make this a very smooth, highly competent professional operation. It is a quirk, apparently. It's not in the norm of the states I'm familiar with that Idaho does not release their probable cause affidavit in support of their arrest warrant until after their defendant is returned to that state. But having read those documents and the sealed affidavits of probable cause, I definitely believe that one of the main reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and hurry his return back to Idaho was the need to know what was in those documents. So that's a significant development. Beyond that, looking at the scope of the situation and the ties this defendant has to my county, I would hold our office at the disposal of the Idaho authorities to help facilitate a complete background investigation into the defendant, both activities prior to the murders occurring within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and his activities after the murders in Pennsylvania. So we stand ready to assist with that effort on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Sounds like he thinks there's some pretty...
So we'll see what they ask. They probably can't answer most questions they ask.
Can you give us any indication as to the operations of state police when you
Who are the guys in the suits? Are those the feds?
tactical?
Probably the feds. Those look like feds. It's like a
They
fucking
look like feds.
We're not in a position to give you an exact time. It was at some point prior to when the surveillance was taken as the investigation progressed to a point where search warrants could be obtained and the probable cause for those search warrants and an arrest warrant.
This guy's haircut is the MVP. I'm
Based on the arrest
sorry.
warrant out in Idaho were obtained.
That needs to be your thumbnail for
That's the plan.
going forward. You just replace your face with his
Like I
high
said,
top.
It's very much pertinent to what's in the affidavits, which we cannot speak about.
What's it about his demeanor when the arrest actually happened?
Present sense impression, as likewise.
Oh my God.
Can't discuss.
This is an MVP chat right here. Captain Kramer should thank Jennifer Lawrence
Those
for
arrangements
paving the
are
way.
being discussed right now, as well as the logistics. The court order says, those of you who heard it today, it's within the next 10 days. So we're currently working on that in coordination with the authorities in Idaho. Sorry.
The Geiger counter went off when we saw the feds.
I can't comment. I don't know.
Is he being held in the Monroe County Jail until he's extradited, or was he removed to another?
No, he is lodged in the since he was
Flat
dropped
top
off
mindset.
Friday morning. He's
Lodged
resided in Monroe.
like a hotel.
Still, until he's
Correct, yes.
extradited, he'll be there. Are the marshals moving him, or which group? Is
At this
moving
point,
him?
that's still being coordinated between the state police and the authorities out there. We don't know.
Will the affidavit be unsealed when he arrives in Idaho?
I don't want to speak out of my lane. When I watched the press conference on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I was alerted to the fact that according to Idaho state law, that the affidavits have to be served to him once he's extradited back before they could be unsealed.
Did he say has anyone else been arrested?
Ongoing investigation.
Has a motive been determined?
I can't comment on that either. I apologize.
They're asking questions they can't comment on. Like it's all, they've been told this and they're just like going to ask.
He's
anyways.
presently back. He was transported from the courthouse by Monroe County Sheriff. And the logistics of who's going to transport him out to Idaho are still being discussed. We don't know. Yeah.
The flat top comments in the chat, man. I'm just glad. That was,
I would say it was in the early morning hours of
Kill it,
Friday,
man.
December 30th. Tactical assets on scene were probably in the neighborhood of 50.
50 officers. All
Were
right.
you afraid he was going to get tipped off before you got him?
I would say overall about this entire operation, and the credit goes, this is a part that the state police played humbly. You look at Moscow Police Department, 38 sworn, 19,000 leads. The video evidence that they had to develop
19,000.
in order to put that out, all public source information. But when you talk about the service of a high risk warrant for someone who's
yeah, the
committed
transparency
or
is the most
committed,
intriguing.
4 homicides, there's nothing
aspect of the
routine
flat
about
top.
that. And all of those tactical steps that were taken were in conjunction with the best efforts of the authorities.
19,000 comments
state,
about this flat top.
federal, both in Idaho and here, to ensure that we could do it safely and to ensure that we could get him into custody. And then
50 officers, so that's 2,000 donuts.
Mr. Mancuso, you described having
This guy's a drinker. You can tell.
Oh, for sure. 100%. This guy is
Yeah,
having
this
a
guy's a
whiskey
heavy
immediately
drinker.
after this. Immediately after this.
Oh, I need a drink. After all that bullshit, I need to.
Give us an indication of the seriousness of what you did. I know you can't talk about it, but can you share with us something?
Yeah, I can't get into the details, sir, but I can say it involved the defendant's connection to a scene of a crime consisting of 4 murdered people. So that's the significance of it.
Can you confirm that there is a connection between Bryan Kohberger and any of the victims?
No, of course they can't.
I can't discuss that.
How confident are you that he is guilty of these crimes?
That wouldn't be my place to say.
What the fuck type of
certainly
question is that? Like these
confident
people are
enough that,
retard level
These
9,000.
are dumbass local.
These are
For the
so
reporters
dumb.
and the warrants in the case.
What was your reaction when you heard this? You've all talked about you followed this. This happened states away. When you get that call, or you all get the call that this person could be right here in your home area, what's your reaction?
Well, I
Dumb
would
do his
question, but he
job.
can answer it.
really Monroe County of all places. It hits close to home. It's a normal.
Well, at least it's a question he could answer, you know.
You know when he and his father left Idaho, or
I think this woman is asking too many
Pennsylvania,
questions.
what
She's
that
like
date
dominating
was?
the conversation here.
No, I don't know the
Yeah.
exact date.
Approximately, we understand the middle of December. Is that correct?
She's the big fish in the little pond.
What about, we heard reports that they were stopped not once but twice on the highway. Can you elaborate?
I'll defer
This guy's
to
flat top is
his
dominating this
Pennsylvania
press
public
conference.
opinion.
Pen-
Reason to believe that Kohberger is connected to other crimes and unsolved mysteries in the area.
What the fuck? They're
I
not gonna be
wouldn't
able to answer that.
answer that question at this time.
Who's this weirdo?
Maybe unsolved where these are.
That would be a normal thing to do.
The DSP here said he was taken without incident.
Computer robots in the chat. Look at the.
I should say,
Oh my God.
It seemed like he was expecting.
I wouldn't comment on what his present sense was. I would just comment that the professionalism of the CERT team and their tactical training definitely proved in a
Personal
situation like this,
experience.
to do it
Right, intuition.
exactly
Yeah.
sound.
It's our lie detectors.
Was there anybody else in the house at the time?
His parents were in the house at the
Did
time.
they say anything to you?
Again, present sense impression. I can't comment on that ongoing investigation.
You break down the door.
Force was used. The warrants were issued for evening search
Yes.
warrants, which in Pennsylvania requires additional probable cause in order to serve them at the hours of darkness. I would defer to the first assistant to talk about the legal burden that you bear in order to obtain those. But from a tactical standpoint, based upon all of the briefings that we had developed and all of the intelligence we had developed, we thought that was the best time to serve it.
And what tipped off that Pennsylvania was involved with this?
We were alerted by the FBI. Troopers in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation were alerted.
Which I'll talk about that a little bit later.
I can't comment. I don't know. Can't comment. Ongoing, like I said. State Police's role here was to serve the warrants and assist with the surveillance, which we've done. We've been part of major investigations. You know, these are men and women who take an oath to protect their communities and the Commonwealth here. We're very humbled with the opportunity that we had, given a case that has really gained international attention to play a small part in it. And our hat is off to Moscow PD again with the size and
The
complexity of
fucking
the
glow.
investigation and the work that they've
It's
done.
kind of amazing. Any which way the dude turns his head, his hair is always as far away from you as possible.
Dispose of any evidence, then you would be a part of this case, or would it go?
I would say that we would pledge whatever support we can for ongoing investigations with the Idaho authorities here in Pennsylvania. Absolutely. We would help them in any way we could.
Were there any weapons found in the home?
I don't want to get into what was actually seized.
Based on the things, based on the hijinks we've seen in Pennsylvania in the last 3 years, I mean, this doesn't surprise me at all that they're
Those are tactical decisions in terms of base surveillance. I don't want to give out too many tactical factors that go into that situation, but obviously surveillance was conducted, and we wanted to go in at a time when we thought it would be the safest for anybody else in the house, safest for Mr. Kohberger, and safest for our people.
There was an interesting question asked earlier about the care that needed to be taken to not.
Oh, from this angle, it doesn't look so flat. Look, he's because his head's down or something.
How long?
Still transparent though.
Beyond things, and how many people were involved in it? Like how many people knew and for how long?
So I would say, I would answer the question this way. I don't want to get into a timeline in terms of when we were notified by the FBI.
Flat top is probable cause.
Obviously, we know on Thursday night into Friday morning is when the warrants were served. I would say, as a credit to the professionals.
Oh, now it's flat as hell. Look at
And
that.
others not here, many others not here.
Certain angles, it just
The information was held very close, and we did not want to have any situation where Mr. Kohberger potentially would be tipped off. So as a result of that, I would say close number.
He's a 3D model. He's clipping through his scalp.
Individuals, maybe 10 on the most within the PSP side of this operation knew about it.
For days, can we say? Or?
I would say for a period of time. I would not feel comfortable commenting any more than that for a period of time. And then as the tactical assets were brought in, people were briefed.
When the movement plan is finally decided, will there be an announcement? Will
not
I
from
think
the
you need a flat top hair emoji now, you know, or
yes.
you know.
The authorities in Idaho.
Starts leaving Pennsylvania.
Well, we have security concerns now, obviously, to move any prisoner. Anytime you move somebody from a secure prison to another place, we don't want to. There won't be an announcement from the state police. in terms
Yeah,
those
of course
logistics, but
not.
They're being worked on right now.
Can you give us your best guess when you think he might be moved roughly? Tomorrow?
We would like to do it as soon as possible, but the court order says 10 days. We have 10 days to coordinate it.
Can you possibly be on a plane tonight? Is it possible he could be on a plane tonight? That's a possibility, right?
I can't. I would think that's
He's not going to be able to say, like, he's going to be on this plane that you can track. Here's the
we're
number.
Looking into that right now.
Can you confirm or deny that a window was broken in order to gain access into the home?
What the?
There were multiple windows that were broken, I believe, to gain access, as well as multiple doors. I think the video of the house after the fact confirms that, and that would all be part of the tactical plan based on the floor plan of the house, etc., and what the CERT operators would do.
Even Cannon's getting on the flat top act.
Suspect on your radar before, and are you looking at any?
By the way, he's talking about the
Wouldn't comment
house
on that based on the ongoing nature.
where they arrested
parents'
him.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the parents' house. They're
the
not
parents'
talking
house.
about where the
Yes,
murders went down.
anything.
Let's be very clear about
Can't
that.
comment on a person's criminal history during an ongoing investigation.
Sorry, Mr. Mancuso said that you stand ready to assist in giving a complete background of the defendant. What specifically is law enforcement interested in?
That'll be the last question after Mr. Mancuso answers.
Last question.
In
Finally.
any
Here we
case
go.
of this nature, and I prosecuted a fair share of homicides.
By the way, we never said this guy
That's
was a
good.
drunk. We just said that
you
this
want to
guy
look at any
drinks.
evidence.
He
of possible
drinks.
motive
So do
like,
I.
Like
wanna look
Andrew
at
and I both drink.
of
I
a
mean,
pattern. of modus operandi.
I got
or
my bullet.
you want to get into the subject's character, mental state to the best you can, that sort of thing. So it'll be an all-encompassing effort, which we stand ready for.
You know, the sun hasn't come up yet, Andrew. So you know,
We have our
you
ways.
could probably keep drinking.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Thanks, everyone. Just for a quick spelling, I'll give everyone the spelling of everyone's name. It was included in the media advisory, but
oh god,
yeah, look at
are
there's.
we gonna
feds.
spell out all the fucking feds? Look at how sus these guys are.
They all
Oh.
stand like freaking pallbearers,
Carter's last name is
waiting for the casket.
Holy shit!
ANCHICK.
Radioactive
First name is
glow over
Robert.
there.
And make sure I got my M4
Harris is
here
not-
so I can
I'll just
blow
say
the media away if they get out of line.
Yeah,
And
blow
the first
Karen
assistant
away.
District attorney's last name is spelled.
Look at him; he's like ready to rock and roll. Now that guy's got at least he's got the right attitude. It's like, all right, I got to.
Special emergency.
This guy's
M4, but
chilling. He's chilling,
yeah.
right?
Thanks, everyone.
He's chilling. Because it's a secure limit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's remove this. So that was the extradition hearing. That was what we're getting
That was
today.
the flat top hearing. What are you talking about,
Bryan? Oh God, too good. I mean, honestly, what we took away from that, the only thing I really got from that was, hey, they broke a couple windows to get into the parents' house. No shit, right? Anytime they're going to arrest somebody, you're probably going to have some guys kicking in some doors and some blowing out some windows, right? That's standard SOP. The feds were involved, and I'll say this, guys: whenever I see the feds are involved, I immediately give the guy the presumption of innocence, because after some of the shit we've seen with what's going on in like Michigan, for example, we've seen hell of a lot of entrapment. I don't give the feds too much credit.
Well, the next thing they're going to say is he was on our radar,
Yeah. Oh, we were tracking him for a while. Well, why didn't you bring him in? Right? If we were watching this guy for months, get the fuck out of here. Standard operating procedure. Yes, the SSOP, right? It's the super standard operating procedure.
or substandard in the case of the FBI.
Oh God. My husband never brought his M4 to court. He's cheating. He only brought a pistol today. How dare you, sir? Oh God.
He took an M4 over to her house. What is that supposed to mean?
God.
Is there
By the
a
way,
phallic reference?
in the contest between She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, and he's cheating one. No, but I mean, and look, let me say something real quick on this to kind of like kind of end cap my thoughts on this. I think this is one where it's going to be hard for us to get fair coverage of this, which is why I want to cover it, because I think so many people are hyped up. You can see by the questions from the press that they're ready to ask these questions, even though they're illegal, even though they're improper, even though they shouldn't be asked at this point, even though they can't answer. They don't give a damn. People are so thirsty for information. The reporters are so hungry for the news. They're going to ask whatever, even if it can't be answered, even if it's improper to answer, even if it's something, for example, asking about guilt. And that was a specific question that kind of pissed me off, is you have reporters asking about guilt when the guy has just been arrested. That is such a lack of understanding of due process and the presumption of innocence, and pretty much it makes a mockery of the entire judicial process by asking a prosecutor or even the member of the prosecution team, law enforcement, whatever, asking somebody who's out there, participating in this arrest, the collection of evidence, whether or not they think somebody is guilty based on the evidence so far. What evidence? We have zero evidence right now because nothing has been entered into evidence in a court of law. So this is how much evidence that I see right now. I see a whole bunch of fucking speculation and a whole bunch of, frankly, people that are being mentally deranged about this. And one of the reasons why I want to cover it is something big like this, you get a lot of unhinged commentary. And I'm here to call it out as bullshit. Like, this is bullshit. People are being very emotional about this. They're being very irrational, and they need to actually remember what the real law is and how things are supposed to work. So that's why I wanted to cover this case, because I think a lot of people are going to get on that speculation train. They're going to jump on Reddit. They're going to jump on forums. They're going to talk, crazy talk. They're going to get on their, weird YouTube channels that will speculate based on his body language in the hallway. And,
Like
and
legal
all
mindset.
of that is bullshit. Yes, like legal mindset. Yes.
The grift will flow.
Legal mindset didn't cut his hair today. Therefore, he's lying to all of us and he's a fed.
Therefore, she's cheating.
Therefore, he's cheating. Yes. Oh God, it's got some good ones here. Chorgan Scornhammer said, "Whitey Bulger isn't why I trust the feds." To be honest, hey, that's a good one. It's definitely a good one. IW said, "If it glows and you smell Fed sodomy, then assume entrapment." It's a good rule, IWD. It's a very good rule. Britt Cormier says, "Come on, man. He has to be guilty. I saw him being walked around with handcuffs. How can he not be guilty?"
Just saying. Yep.
It's so true, though. It is 100% true. They see a person get arrested, and people today, Scott, especially Gen Z, they are so freaking dumb that they think when they see somebody get arrested, that means they're guilty of the crime. They go, "Oh yeah, he's guilty of this." It's like, no, he was arrested for it. That does not mean he's guilty. They don't understand that at all. I mean, it's
all
crazy.
about the appearance. I mean, it goes back to the whole idea of, well, look at his body language. He's clearly, I mean, he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
And by the way,
made a trial.
I'll put this one down here. The true crime wine moms don't get a pass either, right? They don't get a pass either. And look, if you like to watch it and get fair coverage, that's one thing. But if you like to point and shout before we see it in court, that's another. Right, before we see the evidence that we've seen presented to us in court, before we see what's reliable, what's admissible, and what's not, you have to judge it based on that evidence. You can't judge it based on 100% pure speculation and fucking Reddit posts. That's not how you do it.
But Andrew, can't you tell from his handcuffed body language that he was guilty?
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Hat tip to Rish G in the chat.
Oh man. Okay. But yeah, so no, obviously there's people that are going to talk about that though 100%. And like Vincent's missing here says here, the media has already written the narrative. We've seen this play out badly if they fucked up collecting evidence. Do I believe he's guilty? Yes, but need the evidence. Yeah, and that's fine. You can say, hey, I believe this guy's guilty. Like I have a feeling he is, but I still need to see the evidence. Show me the Carfax, right? And you can have a hunch. You can say, hey, it seems likely. Like you said, conviction is likely, conviction is unlikely. And let me say, I think in this case, the prosecution is going to come at this with guns blazing. We find out he has a public defender that is a free attorney. And I will say this about public defenders. Some public defenders can be awesome, can do an amazing job. However, many public defenders suck. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to come out there and be the guy who says it and get the angry public defender emails to me. Legal mindset, you're an asshole. I know some tons of good. Yes, the exception doesn't prove the rule. And I will say, because it's a high profile case, they're probably giving it to the best damn public defender in Moscow, Idaho. I don't know who that is. And I don't know whether they're actually good or not, right? They could be completely trash tier attorney. Who knows? But they will. The one thing the public defender's office does do is they are experienced dealing with criminal behavior. They probably haven't dealt with a murder in Moscow in probably multiple decades. Certainly nothing of this caliber in a very long time. So it's unlikely that they've dealt with anything near on this scale in terms of number of deaths, and certainly not in terms of press coverage. So that's one thing that'll be very interesting to hear, because I think they could have some trouble and with the level of press coverage they're going to get in Moscow. I do hope that everything is televised though, and they don't play games with us with this one, that they just allow us to actually look at what happens in court. Because if they don't do that, I think with this case, there's going to be too much bullshit speculation, too many lies, too many people saying that he was cackling madly like the Joker, and it's going to be.
What I don't understand is that when they show transparency, I think you end up seeing the people have a lot more kind of buy-in to the end result, right? And they can, if it's close, it's kind of like, oh man, well, I don't know which way this is going to go, because it was a good trial both ways, right? It's kind of like a good game, or it's a fucking blowout. Of course he's going to get, how many times has there been a blowout, but then they get convicted anyway? But because there was no transparency at the trial, then, and then, federal court is the worst, right? I mean, there's no transparency in the federal system. So
yeah, no, there's zero, and we need cameras in the federal courtrooms. We need cameras in all courtrooms. I mean, I think all trials should be recorded.
I agree.
All things should. I mean, I think every part of the process that can be without compromising the process itself should be exposed. That's freedom of the press. That's freedom of information. It's not enough to just say you can be physically in court anymore, because you've got a bunch of mainstream media, reporters taking up all those seats, right? You are getting the information.
You could wire a court for HD video for $1,000, and to include the internet connections and everything.
I mean, Scott,
like that.
you were in Korea. Everywhere has CCTV here. There's no fucking excuse why we can't do it in 2023. I like that. I'll read a couple of these. So IWD says, wine moms, the great paradox of civilization, as they're both a sign of its growth and collapse. Well, them and teas. Well, definitely the teas. But I do definitely agree that our great and mighty civilization is definitely showing some cracks. It's a little rough around the edge. Okay, I see people debating with this. So Rush to Judgment says, I like body language analysis. I find it very interesting. I think that's fine. You can find something interesting, and that's fine. That's whatever you find interesting, that's your own thing. But I have a problem, Rush to Judgment, when you go over to comments like this, the Judge Judy comment. If you look away, I know you're lying. See, here's the problem. Now, Judge Judy is not a real judge. That is actually a mediation. It's an agreed to mediation. It's not an actual courtroom. But I have a problem when people in power, and particularly people who exert influence, will say, I know you're lying because you do a thing. Well, I could look away because maybe you got a weird eye, or maybe I just, didn't want to look at you for that second, or maybe there's something in my eye, something happens, they get a fucking eyelash in their eye and they look away for a second. Oh, they're suddenly lying. There's many other factors that can come into why you might look away from somebody. So I don't like when somebody, particularly somebody who styles themselves as a judge, even though they're not, would say, hey, I know you're a liar, therefore I'm going to rule against you. I'm going to exercise my power. And the same applies to law enforcement officers. If they were saying, hey, I saw him do this, therefore I know he was doing X, so I arrested him. That's not due process. That's ridiculousness. I will accept this. Goldie says, I analyzed your body language. The results based. That I'll take. I'll take. It validates me, so I'll take that. R.I.P. wine moms. Tinina said, thank you for coming this. No, my pleasure. I'm happy to cover this one. I think there's going to be a lot of really bad coverage on this, There's going to be a lot of wild speculation. So my commitment to you guys is to try to keep it mostly to the facts. If there's theories, I'll try to present them in a way that's kind of fair and kind of scrutinizing them. But I want to try to get down to what we actually have in evidence and what the actual charges are, not what people are writing about on 4chan or on the farms or on, wherever else on the internet, because that's not factual information. Scott, what do you got coming up this week? Because I've got 2 hours here. I'm going to get some breakfast, and then we're jumping into looking at an expert witness get destroyed on the stand.
Well, we're going to be looking at Brazil on Wednesday. Our weekday show is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So kind of middle of the day. And we're going to be looking at what happened with Brazil. Why didn't a stronger resistance occur to the election of Lula v. Bolsonaro? Because there was some very strong evidence that, like we saw in Arizona, very strong evidence that doesn't amount to anything in the end. And I don't know if they're legitimate or not, but these people who have big question marks or asterisks next to their name are now in power. So we're going to be looking at that with we've got a guy on the ground there in Brazil. We'll be talking with Costa. He's our guy in Brazil. And he'll be talking about just the kind of the feeling in the street and the kind of there's already a spate of arrests and some kind of counting heads and settling scores over this thing. So we're going to look into that. And then of course, Friday we will have our domestic show, so we'll probably talk about this leadership fight in the House on Friday and where we think that's going. It'll be resolved by then, so we'll be able to kind of talk about it. Ex post facto versus like we're in the middle of it right now. So
right. Well, I think it's interesting because we're seeing it live, right? And like I'm getting it live because I happen to be up, early as fuck in the morning. But I'm going to follow this and see where we go because it's going to be very telling, right? It's going to be one of those bellwethers. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be massive changes in policy one way or another because whether people like it or not, the establishment has the majority. Right. And let me just put that out there. The establishment has the majority, right? The folks that are pro-Ukraine, the folks that are pro-current thing, whether they wear red or wear blue, they do have the majority on both sides of the aisle. So,
well, in the chat, they're bringing up why is Bolsonaro in Florida, and why is he in the U.S.? So that'll be another thing we'll look at because it would make sense actually for him to get the hell out of Dodge based on the track record we've seen with some of these leftists. Because I put Lula right up there with the leftists and Morales.
But that's a thing, and that's a thing in other countries. And listen, this is how we say the U.S. becomes a third world country because what happens in third world countries, developing countries, second world, if you want to go there with Brazil, right, is when a political leader falls out of power, they are either imprisoned, executed, persecuted.
Right. Look at Korea.
But right, exactly. Korea. Well, in Korea is a developed country, right? They're very much a first world country, and they still prosecute former leaders, quite often. And I'm not saying that it's not justifiable. In many cases, what's happened with Korean leaders is absolutely justifiable.
But it's also political, though. It's very political in South Korea. So it's not like it's a pure kind of just a corruption thing or whatever.
Right. So there's two elements to that. And some people who are prosecuted, it's justly. But the thing is, with South America, it's a pattern that you see. So him leaving, him getting out is not something that would be out of line with the history for Brazil, the history for countries in South America and how they roll. But when I look at the U.S. and I see the Trump prosecution, I go, that is a third world move. I mean, we're better than that. We previously held ourselves to a higher standard, Scott, and now we're falling there.
The tax documents is another version of that. The kangaroo court of the January 6th. And the fact that they've dropped all the it's all in line with all that stuff.
Yeah, and we need to move on. We need to continue to move forward and improve, and not linger on the past, linger on prosecuting old crimes as we come up to 2 days from something we're going to be reminded about for the next 5 years. The anniversary of something in 2 days that we're going to be reminded about for the next 5 years. We need to move on and work on improving the country and not dragging it down to the depths.
So but anyway, we will be talking about that stuff, and then as always, China, Russia, Ukraine, these things are always hovering in the background and continue to provide a lot of content. So we'll continue to look at that. Hey, by the way, I just want to say thank you. This is the first time since we've hit 3,000 that I've been back on the channel. So I want to say thanks to you and your audience, because that's a big part of how we got there.
My pleasure. You guys have been a great help for my channel, great help for me to cover the Ukraine issue. You guys have been doing great coverage. My guys that watch you and say to you, love you. Some people make fun of your hat. It's okay. Some people make fun of Ron looking like a walrus. It's fine.
I got the Teguki on my hat today.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good to have you guys. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna leave you with the alternative outro today, but I will be back in literally 1 hour and 49 minutes. So I will actually be wearing a suit then, because I'll be up, I'll shower. I won't have time to get a haircut, but I'm going to try to do something with this hair. So I will be back to go through the next part of the Casey Anthony trial. Like the stream, smash the like button. The next one will be on Rumble as well. And guys over there in the locals live chat, thank you for being absolutely degenerate. I expect to see flat top memes in the Discord and in the locals chat flowing like Dionysus. And I will catch you guys later. Peace.